All eyes are on Thailand, where nationwide elections wrapped up Sunday, but the political crisis is far from over. Those who oppose Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra's leadership boycotted the vote, but that does not necessarily mean victory for her party. CCTV's Martin Lowe has been monitoring events from Bangkok, and he joins us live now. Martin.
Well, the most important thing to tell you that there is no result. Because of the widespread disruption, election officials here are not even announcing preliminary voting figures at this stage. So what happened? Well, an election did take place. Was it mostly normal? No. Is the result inconclusive? Yes. So what happens now? Well, as often in these cases, both sides will claim a victory. The protesters, it's clear, did cause widespread disruption. A number of ballot papers weren't able to be delivered, and a number of voting stations had to close. The main opposition Democrat Party didn't even run in these elections as part of the protest, many polling stations didn't operate. Now, on the other hand, the government will say that despite 3 months of intense pressure from daily demonstrations and from a number of bodies telling them that they weren't able to go ahead with these elections because of terrible violence which would ensue, they were able, in fact, to stage them. There was very little violence, in fact, on the day, and the government was able to go ahead without resorting to the use of force from its police service, which many people thought would be necessary. So they will claim it's a victory for democracy. Now let's look at some of the figures. Thai election officials claim that at least 6 million people were prevented from voting, but many estimates will put that figure far higher. Some 10,000 out of 90-odd thousand polling stations across the country weren't able to operate. They either remained closed or had to close early, mostly in the south of the country, where there is great support for the protests. What is clear is that even when all of the votes are cast, not enough MPs will have been elected to form a new government. Now, certainly what's happened is that opinions have been even more polarized by this disruption. Normally, there's a huge turnout for elections in Thailand. In the last election in 2011, it was 75%. It looks like this time it'll be lucky if it's 50%. Many people stayed at home because of fear of violence. On the other hand, I know of one woman who took a 10-hour bus ride from here in Bangkok to her home in the east of Thailand to cast her vote, and then got back on a bus and took another 10-hour bus ride to come back to Bangkok.
Martin, you've talked about the disruption, and we've certainly seen a lot of violence in the past. How was the violence in the last 24 hours?
Thankfully, it was relatively calm. There was an incident overnight when a car crossing one of Bangkok's main bridges was struck by bullets. 2 people inside were hurt, but it seems that this was some random shooting, or possibly these people were caught in the crossfire. The most serious incident remains the one on the eve of Election Day, where the 2 sides came together in a suburb of Bangkok, and a gun battle took place. 7 people were hit by bullets and were hurt in that exchange, and eyewitnesses have confirmed that weapons were being used by both sides. But overall, in the scale of things, the disruption, the violence was far lower than people had feared. Meanwhile, today, the day after the election, yet another protest march is planned. The protest leader says he will lead thousands of people on a 14-kilometer march through Bangkok to continue the disruption. For them, they say that their campaign isn't over. And meanwhile, the opposition Democrat Party, who, as we've already said, chose not to contest these elections, they've already said that they will go today to the country's Constitution Court to ask for a ruling that because of the disruption, the whole election process should be ruled invalid.
Martin Lowe reporting live from Bangkok. And in